So today is the release of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 30th Anniversary Special, and what this is a comic book that celebrates 30 years of Power Rangers with several different stories paying homage to the legacy of Power Rangers with some fan favorite characters. And I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the stories that it told, and the tribute it paid to Power Rangers with all these different stories. Now, originally I was going to make one big video talking about all these different stories, but I decided to make separate videos talking about each and every one of the stories, giving them their own highlights and spotlight, because there's a lot to go over with these stories in the book, and I feel like they all deserve their own separate spotlight. So, without any further ado, let's talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 30th Anniversary Special, starting with Story 1. So the first story is called Ode to Ernie, written by Ryan Parrott and artwork done by Eleonora Callarini. Now, this was a great story because it's a Ernie-focused story, which is something you don't see a lot in the Power Ranger comics, as Ernie has kind of taken a backseat within the story. And for Ryan to do a tribute to Ernie, well, especially a tribute to Ernie's actor who passed away several years ago, Richard Janelle, was great to see, because this shows how much the characters appreciate Ernie, because we get to see Ernie's day-to-day life and what he goes through while working at the juice bar. And when he locks up at the end of the day, he's attacked by a monster, but he's saved by the Rangers, and then you get the reveal that he's selling the juice bar, because he says that he made the juice bar for kids to hang out and stay safe, but with all the monster attacks and everything going on, he feels like that place isn't really needed anymore because, you know, how can they feel safe if there's monster attacks every other day? Which is a nice little touch, because I'm glad that Ryan was writing this story, because way back in Go-Go Power Rangers, I believe during the Color Swap arc, there's this moment where you see the grand opening of the juice bar, of the fitness center, and Ernie does say that he wanted to have a place where kids can hang out and feel safe, because he knew someone who was out on the streets and he didn't have anywhere to hang out, he didn't have anywhere to stay safe, and eventually they disappeared or passed away, it's implied. So Ernie wanted something to have the kids hang out and be safe. So he does have this doubt that he opened the juice bar for everyone to stay safe, but it doesn't seem like that's not the case anymore, and he's selling the place to some gym place. But Kimberly gives him this big speech, or all the other Rangers give him this big speech by saying, hey, the juice bar is very important because you might not know it, but we're actually your customers. And he's like, oh, no, you're not. And he's like, no, we are. And you mean a lot to us because you've always been there for us. You've been someone we can lean on, someone we can talk to. And you mean a lot to us and your customers and the people who come here. You're not just a juice bar, you're a very important person. And I really do like that moment because, like, Ernie sort of was the father figure to the Ranger if you don't count Zordon. And if you remember, this is like rumors and rumblings, and I think like scrap plans from like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1 back in the day that Ernie was going to be Zordon or something like that, because, you know, you never saw him in the same room together and stuff like that. But this was like a nice moment to have the Rangers sort of be that sort of shoulder for Ernie to lean on and say, hey, you mean a lot to these people and you're very important. And I really enjoyed that moment. So Kimberly then does say, we're not going to tell you how to live your life, but you got to ask yourself one thing before you sell the juice bar. Aren't some things worth the risk? So the next day you have some businessman shouting at Ernie, and then you find out that Ernie isn't going to sell the juice bar after all. And you've got Billy and Trini sitting down, and they ask what's that about, and Ernie says, hey, I was just having an argument with that guy about the future of the juice bar because I wanted to have one. So because he had that big talk with the Power Rangers last night, he does sort of tease saying, hey, is a Power Ranger here right now? And you have this moment where Trini and Billy are sort of laughing, saying, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, well, Billy does ask, saying, yeah, do you have any idea who it might be? And Ernie's like, no, not a clue. But you know what? That's okay. it's just good enough to know they're out there. And I do like that artwork that Eleonora drew for Ernie, where he's got his arms crossed and he's sort of squinting his eyes like he kind of knows, but he's not going to say anything, with how Billy and Trini are reacting. So it's a really nice moment. So it kind of ends with it feels like that Ernie does know their secret in the end, but this story overall, it's like a really nice Ernie story, and I'm glad that Ryan did it, because it's a tribute to Richard, who played Ernie back in Mighty Morphin all the way into Zeo. It was really nice to see that. That was really great, a really good story. But not only that, the artwork done by Eleonora is really freaking great as well. I've always liked Eleonora's art style. She'll do these silly anime expressions from time to time. But not only that, the coloring is really well done as well. So I really enjoyed this story. And I'm glad that Ryan chose to do an Ernie story, because it's something that you wouldn't really expect for the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. You'd probably expect, a different season or a different character to get a spotlight. But Ernie is an important character in Power Rangers history, but not only that, Power Rangers overall, when you think about it, with sort of the importance role that he played with the Juice Bar, because that's where the Rangers hanged out. And for him not to sell the place, well, if he did sell the place, then, the future of Power Rangers would have been totally different if this story was sort of actually took place and actually happened. But it was a nice story, and I really enjoyed it in the end, and I feel like this was a great one to do. So, with that said, I'm going to wrap up this story, and we'll move on to the next one.